All right, let's dive right in. We're all living in this world of just constant information, right? Endless to-do lists and that nagging feeling that we're always just a little bit behind. So in this explainer, we're going to build a system, a way to move from that feeling of total overload to a state of real focus and mastery. So let me ask you something. How many truly brilliant ideas have you had, and then they're just gone? Poof. An amazing idea for a project, a perfect solution to a problem, a huge insight from a book you just finished. Where does all that incredible stuff go? Well, this really gets to the core of it. The productivity expert Tiago Forte just nailed it when he said, our brains are for having ideas, not storing them. See, we're trying to use our minds like a computer's hard drive, and honestly, they're just not built for that kind of long-term storage. So here's our game plan. First, we're going to understand our brain's big problem. Then we'll build a solution with something called a second brain. After that, we'll figure out how to decide what's truly important, find that ultimate focus, conquer procrastination, and finally tie it all together on the path to mastery. Okay, first up, our brain's big problem. This is all about getting to the bottom of why we feel so overwhelmed and why we seem to lose so much valuable knowledge. So how do we actually fix this? Well, that brings us right to our second section. We're going to build a second brain. This is really the foundation for managing all that information. What on earth is a second brain? It's actually pretty simple. It's just an external, digital place where you keep everything you learn. Think of it like an extension of your own mind. When you offload all that storage, you free up your actual brain to do what it's amazing at: thinking, creating, and solving problems. And to make this work, we can use this really simple four-step method called CODE. First, you capture ideas that really resonate with you. Then, you organize them so they're ready for action. Next, you distill them, finding the absolute core essence. And finally, you express your own unique work. It's a full cycle, from taking things in to putting things out. Now, for organizing everything, the PARA method is just incredibly effective. It sorts all your digital info into 4 simple buckets based on how actionable it is. Is it a project with a clear goal, an area of your life you need to manage, a resource you might need later, or is it ready for the archive? It's simple, it's flexible, and it is so powerful. Okay, great. So now you have this amazing system for capturing and organizing all your knowledge. But that leads to the next huge question, right? How in the world do you decide what's actually important enough to act on? And that brings us to section 3, deciding what's truly important. And for this, we're going to pull out a classic tool called the Eisenhower Matrix. The whole idea here is pretty simple, really. The Eisenhower Matrix helps you sort all of your tasks into 4 key boxes, or quadrants, and doing that helps you decide exactly what to focus on and what to ignore. The absolute key to this whole thing is understanding the difference between urgent and important. Urgent tasks are the things that scream for your attention right now. They put you in a reactive mode. But important tasks, they're the ones that actually contribute to your long-term goals. They allow you to be proactive. You know, most of us get trapped by the urgent. But real effectiveness, that happens when you focus on the important. So you've done it. You organize your knowledge, you use the matrix, you've chosen your most important task. That's awesome. But now comes the hard part. How do you actually sit down, avoid all the distractions, and do your absolute best work? And this leads us to section 4, finding your ultimate focus. Here, we're going to talk about achieving peak performance by getting into what's called a flow state. The psychologist Csikszentmihalyi came up with this idea. And flow is that amazing, almost magical state where you are just completely immersed in what you're doing. Time just kind of melts away. You stop being self-conscious, and you're just operating at your absolute peak. It's a state of deep, almost effortless involvement. So, how do we find this state? Well, it's all about balance. If a task is way too easy for your skills, you get bored. If a task is way too difficult, you just get anxious. Flow happens right in that sweet spot, that perfect channel where a high challenge is met with a high level of skill. But there is one final hurdle that can derail this entire beautiful system. It's a problem we all face. And that brings us to section 5, conquering procrastination. And hey, if you struggle with this, listen, you are so not alone. Research shows that a staggering 50% of students procrastinate so much that it causes them real personal distress. This is not some personal failing, it's a completely normal human challenge. You know, it's really important to reframe what procrastination actually is. It is not about being lazy. Modern psychology sees it as a failure of self-regulation. Basically, a gap between what we intend to do and what we actually do. It's our brain choosing a small, immediate reward right now over a much bigger payoff later on. Okay, so let's bring it all home in our final section, the path to mastery. This is all about putting these pieces together to create your own integrated system. Here's how it all connects and clicks into place. Your second brain captures and organizes all your potential ideas and projects. From there, the Eisenhower Matrix helps you direct your energy to what's truly important, not just what's screaming the loudest. Then, once you've picked that task, getting into a flow state is how you create an amazing result with deep focus. And finally, learning to overcome procrastination is the key that unlocks this entire process. And we'll end with this really powerful idea from Tiago Forte. As you look at this whole system, just remember his words. You will realize that you already have everything you need to get started. The tools are right here, the knowledge is yours. The only question left is, what are you going to create?